our latest episode of the She Speaks series from Let Her Speak. I'm Catherine Porth, the founder of Let Her Speak, and today I have with me the founder and owner of the social brand, Victory Harbin. Victory is an amazing person, a young entrepreneur that's done a lot for herself in starting up her own small business and growing it. And I'm really excited to have her with us today. She's a wealth of information, but then also has a great story and a great journey of what's gotten her to where she is today. So thank you so much for being with me today, Victory.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this, so thank you.
Yeah, yep. So I would love to just start off with talking a little bit about what your journey has been so far, from where you started to ultimately starting your own business, and then where you've taken it so far.
Yeah, so let's see, I always struggle on where to start the story. So um, ultimately, I went to school for healthcare administration and I worked in healthcare. And so that's kind of my background. And I was working in a doctor's office, kind of living my life, and a partner of mine wanted to start a business, and so he he wanted to start a business, and I was like, "Cool, I'll help with the marketing. This will be fun. I'll keep working my job, and I'll help you." So I, started diving into marketing, and that was kind of my obsession. I just loved it, and helped him start that business. Before long, I was able to quit my job and kind of join him full time in that business. And so people started coming to us asking me for help with their social media, with their website. And before I knew it, I was doing that basically full time. And we were bringing in more income doing the social media and the websites than we were doing the other stuff. So that was very exciting to me, because it was never my dream to start that business. It was never it wasn't my baby. And so getting to jump in and create something that was mine was a very different experience. And so I founded the social brand in January of 2018. And I think Catherine and I have talked about this a lot, about the imposter syndrome, of how, like, when it's somebody else's dream and you're just kind of doing the marketing, there's no like emotional tie to it. But when it's your dream and you're putting yourself out there and your ideas and your passion and it's your everything, boy, the imposter syndrome like really came up for me. And I was just like, I'm self-taught, and how can I charge for this? And I'm just figuring this out. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and some of my clients can attest to that. That I really was learning as I went. But now, fast forward, we're in our 4th year of business. We have 4 full-time team members, and it's amazing. So it's been a really powerful journey.
So what has been, one of the biggest lessons that you've had to learn along the way of owning your own business?
Honestly, I think, I made a post about this on social media recently about how if I could change one thing, it would have been to quit watering myself down sooner. Because it's so easy to feel like I'm supposed to be this person. especially as a business owner, you feel like people are looking at you. You feel like you have a, it's so weird how you feel like you have a reputation to withhold. And I just didn't speak my truth. And I wasn't living in my own space for probably the first 2 years of it. It really wasn't until the last year or so that I really just kind of said, like, look, I'm going to own a business and I'm going to be a female business owner and I'm struggling with different things and I'm just going to own it and I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to be open about it and I'm going to share my story. And so I wish that I would have come into that confidence a lot sooner, because I think that it would have really changed my personal experience. I think I could have saved myself a lot of anxiety and stress along the way. So
Was it like a culmination of a lot of things that led you to that realization that you weren't being your full self, or was there like a moment in time where that light went off?
I think that it was just a journey of, first of all, a lot of therapy and just like dealing with my own stuff and maturing as a business owner and as a human being. You know, I became an entrepreneur when I was 23. So I was very, very, very young. I'm still young. I'm only 27. And so I think part of it is just kind of growing up. Like, I grew up as a business owner. Um, and so part of it was just more life experience. And part of it was just kind of working through the emotions of, the emotional stuff that comes up for you, and just slowly gaining confidence through life experience. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
No, it does. It's definitely when you're 23 and starting something, and most of the women around you are probably in their 30s or higher. It's really difficult to feel like, oh, I need to be where they are, and forget that no, they've been 10, 15, 20, 30 years in the making of where they are now. You didn't see them when they were in the exact same spot you were. So it's difficult to feel like you need to catch up to someone who's 20 years ahead of you.
yeah. And I spent a lot of time thinking that I had to be, you know, a 30 or 40 or 50-year-old version of myself, instead of just owning my story and owning the fact that, hey, I'm 24, 25, 26, 27, owning a business. And so it took me a while to come into the, just like, hey, there's power in my story. I don't have to pretend like I have all the answers. I don't have to pretend like I have all this experience. And I compared myself to women who are just like such mentors to me, which is amazing. They've been there for me for like through everything. But I would compare myself to their life experience or their resume or whatever it was, and that's where that imposter syndrome would come up for me so often. So
Yep, that's one of the most difficult things to do, is to remind yourself that that's a goal of some place to be, but you don't have to be there right now. And that doesn't have necessarily have to be, you don't have to emulate exactly what you see, because you're you and they're them. And one thing I would love to know, because since you didn't start off in marketing at all, but you somehow came into it, which I find really interesting, especially because I decided I was going to be in marketing when I was, I think, like 14. So I've been like a lifelong, I'm going to be in marketing in some fashion, some way. What initially made you fall in love with it when you started diving into doing marketing?
so let me back up. See, I always question where I should start the story. And I always started at the wrong place. So before I got into healthcare, I was an art major for 3 years, and I loved art. I loved it. And So for me, marketing was like this amazing combination of kind of the business administration part of my healthcare degree and the art that I loved. And so marketing took strategy, which I really, really liked, and creativity, which I love, and it combined it in this beautiful way that I was like, holy cow. As soon as I discovered marketing, I was like, this is what I was meant to do. Because I've always been like a storyteller. I've always been very creative and visual. And I've always loved kind of figuring out how things go together. And that's what marketing is. And so it really was just like this beautiful moment of like validation for me of like, oh, all these random attributes of myself suddenly make sense and like it all works together and I know what I'm meant to do now. So yeah, I kind of discovered it that way. And then I was just obsessed. Like I went from being on YouTube, figuring things out to having now 39 marketing certifications and I'm a consultant for the Small Business Association. I'm a consultant for the state of Virginia. And I do all this stuff because I just became obsessed with it and just like threw myself into it for years. So, yeah, it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome that you managed to figure out all these bits and pieces of yourself that they actually make sense for something. I feel like sometimes we that's not something that you're taught when you're in school is, you have your individual classes, but you don't so much work on cumulatively of everything that you are, your personality, what you love. How can that all come together into something that you can put your whole heart into? And sometimes that's a struggle that most people struggle with for most of their lives. So the fact that you found that so early in your life is a huge accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, and I think for me, it was like, I didn't grow up around entrepreneurs. Like some people in my life, they're like, oh, yeah, my parents were entrepreneurs or whatever. I mean, I didn't grow up around entrepreneurship. And so, like, going out and creating something from scratch was like, oh my gosh, I can actually do this. And for the longest time, it felt like, okay, I'm faking everybody out. This is going to come crashing down any minute. And then, like, here I am 4 or 5 years later, and it's still going. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not faking him out because it's still here and it's working. And so it's been a pretty cool journey.
And what are some highlights of like milestones or either personally or professionally for you that did help try to reinforce that the imposter syndrome is false and you do actually know what you're doing and you are doing it?
Well, I think some professional milestones is just seeing what we do work for clients. Like that's extremely validating when somebody comes to me and I take them from where they are, I put together a strategy, we implement it, and then they get results. That's super cool and extremely validating. I think on a personal level, it was when I started sharing my story on social media. Like, I'm a talker and I will do these big long posts on social media and just kind of share, like, hey, look, this is where I'm at in my life. These are the lessons I'm learning. And when that happened and it helped my business instead of hurting it, because I always thought, like, living in my truth, if I didn't portray this certain image or if I didn't seem like I had it all together, then my business wouldn't thrive. When in reality, when I started sharing my story, my business grew tremendously. So I think those are kind of the two moments of like the first time I realized that a strategy I put together worked for a client, and then the first time I realized that I was sharing my story and it was helping my business, were two moments where I was like, okay, I'm living in my truth and this is what I was meant to do.
That's one thing that I find interesting. 'Cause I can sometimes struggle with that too. And I feel like it's kind of a story of the cobbler's children, where marketers were really good at helping others understand their story and push them to say, like, no, be yourself and be authentic and share your story and talk to everybody about it. People connect with real human beings, not robot, avatars of what you think the perfect person in your position should be. Yet when we have to do it for ourselves, it's very, very difficult for us to do that for ourselves and to apply the exact same principles that we ask our clients to do.
Can you still see me?
Oh, yeah, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Oh,
Okay. Can you hear me now?
yeah, I can.
Okay, it just like totally died on my computer. So, okay, so you were saying
Actually,
sharing our
you're
own story can,
frozen. Oh, wait, you were frozen. Now you're not frozen.
okay. What was the last thing that you said?
I was saying that I find it interesting that a lot of times with marketers, it's similar to the cobbler's children who don't have shoes, that we are really good at helping others pull out their stories and to be real and authentic when they're talking about their business. But a lot of times we forget to do that for ourselves, and we fall back into like the what we think is the safe space of being what we think others want to see us be.
Mm-hmm. It's acting weird on my end. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. Can you see and hear me?
Yeah, I can. Is it?
I don't know. I Zoom like 10 hours a day every day, and I've never had this problem. So I'm sorry. Um, but you were making a good point, because that's exactly what kind of we do for our clients, is say like, hey, we need to move you into a space where you're being your authentic self, and show your face, and um, talk about the things that matter to you and share your values. And when I realized I wasn't doing that for myself, is when I realized that I had a misalignment of my values. And so when I shifted that, I remember like talking about that in therapy, when I realized like, hey, there's a misalignment of what I'm telling other people to do and what I believe to be true about human nature and how I'm behaving. Like, I'm portraying a fake image and I'm not being myself. And just kind of giving myself permission to say, like, I'm going to share my story and I'm going to be myself and I'm going to be where I'm at in my life. And that's either going to be okay or it's not. And I'm okay with where the cards lay. So,
Yeah, I think that's so interesting because you're not it happens in most industries, but I see that all the time in marketing, that we're so good at helping other people, but we're terrible sometimes at applying the exact same thing to ourselves.
mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of women that all act in that way, that we can help everybody else, but sometimes we don't apply that exact same accountability and expectation on ourselves. Or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same permission to be a human being. We feel like everybody else can be human except for me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. and like giving others grace and not giving yourself grace. Like when they make a mistake, you're like, oh, it's fine, no big deal. If you make a mistake, it's like, how could you do this? So, yeah, totally understand that. It's just like different sets of um, standards that you have for other people and what you have for yourself. So, just like learning to be kind to myself and even to my team, and not letting my ultra strict expectations that I have for myself translate into ultra strict expectations that I have for my team. You know, obviously we want to deliver quality in our business, but like just allowing the same amount of grace that I would allow for a client or a friend or a family member internally as well. So
And yeah, that's actually one thing I wanted to bring up. So a lot of one huge milestone that a lot of solopreneurs or people who start off where it's just two business partners and that's it, is moving on to that next step of actually hiring employees and being responsible for the somebody else to have a wage and to be making a living. And you start feeling the pressure of the weight of, oh, this isn't just me anymore. This is like me responsible for all of these people having enough to live and to keep the boat afloat. So what were some
yeah.
things that that you worked through, or some recommendations that you have for people who are looking at that next stage for their business to grow by hiring people to work for them?
Well, my story is that I bought my business partner out before I hired. So, we were just in different places in our lives and we're still like best friends, but, we went two different directions. And so, I was in a little bit of a different situation because, again, I'm young. I was able to take risks that, people who maybe have kids or families wouldn't be as comfortable or as able to make. And I would probably say that the way I grew is probably not the best way to grow. I was just like, all right, I'm doing it. Here we go. I didn't talk to my accountant. I didn't look at my books. I just was like, all right, we're doing it, and the universe will provide. And the universe did provide. Um, and that's how I hired. Don't tell my employees that. That probably would freak them out. But of course, now that I have 4 team members and I've had a few nights of carrying that weight of someone else's livelihood. Like I remember when one of my team members told me they were buying a house, I was like, can you not do that? Like that's a lot of pressure on me. And I need you to not buy a house right now. Of course, I didn't say that, but I've matured in my approach now. Obviously, now I have an accountant and I check the books and I see how much is in savings and all of that before I bring on another team member. But I would say that if I was giving advice, it would be just to take action, and whether it's to bring on some part-time contractors or it's to bring somebody on part-time, or if you have the budget, it's just a matter of taking action. Like you're never going to be ready to be a boss. That's never going to be like, okay, you're stamped and approved and you're ready to be a boss. Like I'm 27, I have 4 employees, and I am learning every single day on how to be a better leader, how to provide a more stable work environment, how to be fair to my employees, and how to allow them to be creative and work within their gifts without like squashing it, but still having consistency. Like I'm still learning all of those things, and like the world hasn't caught on fire because I'm learning on the job. And so I think a lot of people feel like they have to have all the knowledge, or they have to understand everything, or they have to have all the dollars in place before they take action. And some people are more risk averse than I am. Some people they play it safer, they're willing to take risks. But I would just say, like, start taking action somehow, because your business will never scale until you start letting other people's gifts shine through your business too. And I guess that would be the other piece of advice that I would give, would be to just let people do things their way. Like, it doesn't have to be your way. Like, my first employee, she was Tamara. She's our social media manager. She's still on the team, and she's amazing. Her approach to social media is a little bit different than mine. And I wasted a whole lot of attention and energy trying to make it exactly mine. Like, no, don't do it this way, do it this way. And then when I finally just was like, you know what, Tamara, I trust you, and I trust your gifts, and I trust your approach, it was a lot better than it ever was when I did it. So just allowing her to, like, be empowered as someone on my team, and just trusting them to be who they were and do things in their own approach has been a challenging lesson for me to learn. But every time I just trust and let it be what it is, it's like so much more beautiful than I could have imagined it could have been. So
I think that's a really, really important piece, especially even if it's an intern or a contractor. Not it doesn't just apply to full-time employees that are on your books, but the value of autonomy is incredibly, incredibly important to a business succeeding. There's data that supports it too. It's not just like I feel like it is. There's actually data that states that all of us want to have ownership of something, but a lot of times, yeah, we as the owner of something, we feel like, oh, it's our responsibility to ensure that nothing goes wrong and everything is right and buttoned up and neat and nice. And we forget that it's through autonomy that actually new ideas, innovations, expansion, all happens within our business. But sometimes it's really difficult to do that. So I think that's something that no matter what, it's like a constant reminder that you have to give yourself on like a monthly, weekly basis is, am I giving my team the autonomy and the responsibility of doing things their way? And also, it's okay if it doesn't work out perfectly. It's okay to fail and learn from that, because I think then the whole team learns, and it's a shared failure rather than oh no, this is all on me because I told them all to do it this way. And then I, as the owner, realized like, oh, I didn't actually do that correctly.
yeah, and that's hard. The first time that you do something and you fail as a team, it's like, it takes so much humility as the leader to just be like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. I'm not going to yell at you. Like, I told you that you could explore this, and you tried a way and it didn't work. And you know what? I failed like a million times because I thought this whole thing up, and I've made lots of mistakes. And like, that takes a lot of just like breathing exercise. But I think that's where you earn the respect of your team. And so those moments are so valuable, like so much more valuable than you even realize in the moment of it, because that's where you earn the trust and the respect of your team. And that's where you learn what they're made of, because you see how they respond when they failed. So it's a learning situation on both ends, and it's a really valuable moment. So, but it's hard. It's really hard to be like, I'm okay if this fails. And then it does fail. and then you have to deal with it, whether that's going to a client or hurrying up and scrambling to fix something or whatever. It takes, I don't know if it's humility, maybe that's the wrong word, maybe it's bravery, because it can be scary. So
And it's kind of like Brene Brown talks about, that you have to be willing to be brave and afraid simultaneously. Um, yeah, and because that is exactly what entrepreneurship is. You're both brave and afraid basically every single day.
mm-hmm. Yeah, which this is a very common like metaphor of like building the plane while you're flying it. I talk to my team about that a lot. I'm like, you guys work for a small business, kind of startup. Like we're building the plane while we're flying it. So like one of the examples of that was like we're writing our employee handbook right now, and we already have 4 employees. Like we're definitely building the plane while we're flying it, and we're trying to figure it out. And like we're creating policies and procedures as we go, and we're defining what our culture looks like after we already have one. And it takes some bravery.
I think that's so cool though, from like from coming from someone who, I was in corporate America for so long, that it can get kind of boring stepping onto, an airliner that is already all built, it's all there. All you have to do is do the maintenance on it to make sure that it keeps going. And you don't get any opportunities whatsoever to determine, you like see something, you're like, well, why is it like that? That doesn't make any sense. It would be much better if you tweaked it to this. And it's like, no, well, that piece has been there for years and years and years, and nothing's gone wrong with it yet. So we're not even going to touch it. Continuing with this metaphor. But when you're in a small business, that's what I think is one of the most exciting things, is like, no, you get to determine what goes where and how it all is built together. When you're a part of a team, you start taking on that heart of an owner, even if you aren't the owner.
Yeah. And for me as the owner, it's super cool to see other people like care about my business and invest in it. It's like, holy cow, how cool is this that I have this team that like loves my clients the same way I do, and they care about their success the same way I do, and they care about our culture the same way I do, and they hold me accountable too. Like, hey, I've had people on my team come to me and be like, hey, I think you could have handled this differently. And when they're right, it's like, you're right. Like they're my comrades just as much as I am theirs. So it's pretty cool to make that transition from, oh my gosh, this is all mine and I have to carry all of this and this is so much stress and turmoil, to like, no, this is our plane and we're flying it together. And success is all of our success. It's super cool. So
Yeah, I think that's, at least for me, that's one of the most rewarding things. Especially if you were like a solopreneur and now you get to have a team with you to really help see the expanse of what you could possibly do. So what do you foresee being, like the next phase for the social brand?
I think that as of right now, we're really focusing on just like getting back to the community of small business owners in terms of content. So for a long time, just like you were talking about the cobbler shoes, like we were not creating content the way that we were doing for our clients, and we weren't prioritizing our own content. And so that's something that we're really, really focusing on, and we really want to explore where content creation for ourselves can take us as a brand. And so that's something that we're really focusing on. And we have some like pretty cool goals for that around content creation for the year of 2021. But I guess we'll just kind of see where it takes us. So that's kind of what our focus is obviously still continuing to provide great service for our clients and growing our business that way, but also really focusing on content creation and being consistent in that and delivering value to people who may not even ever work with us, but just making sure that we're providing value to anybody who interacts with us. So
And I like your content that you guys have put out so far, the videos and stuff.
well,
Um,
thank you.
yeah. Even though I've, done marketing a lot, I always seek out going back to basics because I feel like you get
Mm-hmm.
so far down the road that you forget some of the just basic fundamentals. So I love
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of your videos are on some of those fundamentals that I like to
Mm-hmm.
revisit.
Yeah. And we kind of jumped into YouTube at the beginning of the year, like, okay, we're doing YouTube. We're going to do this. And like the plan was like, I was going to film and edit all my own videos. And then we quickly realized, like, oh, like it's January and this is our busiest time of the year, meeting with people and figuring out their marketing goals for the new year, which is amazing. But I was like, okay, I don't have time to edit these videos. So we're reconfiguring that whole game plan, and YouTube videos will return soon. But we're building the plane as we're flying it.
Yep,
We're
that's what you
figuring it
have
out.
to do. So the last question then I have for you is, and this doesn't have to necessarily be professionally, just your life. What is the legacy that you hope to leave behind, as far as how people remember you and the impact that you make?
Hmm. I hope that I bring the value of human connection to the businesses that I interact with. I hope that um, they that they are able to speak their own truth and they're able to share their own story, and that the people that I work with are able to step more into their genuine selves. And I guess that would be kind of just my wish for anybody who I get to interact with or knows about like my content or any of that, that it pushes people to be their more genuine self, and that people are able to just live confidently and be themselves and have a personal life and have a professional self, and that it all commingles and it all works together.
I love that. I love that. Regardless of what you're doing, I feel like that's something that everybody in every industry in every corner of the world needs to be reminded of, especially when we're still continuing to have to be virtual all the time. It's tough to have that
Yeah,
human to human connection.
yeah, it is. It's hard. But our mission statement says that we exist to creatively promote human connection. And I think that's what marketing is about creating those connections between us and our clients and them and their customers. And that's why we exist, is to create more human connections. And so, you know, I hope that I help people do that, whether it's in their personal life or in their professional lives. So
Well, that's a great legacy to leave behind. And thank you so much for your time today, Victory. We'll have in the caption, we'll have all of your information. So everybody check that out. But Victory, do you want to share with everybody how they can connect with you?
yeah, so just follow us on Facebook or Instagram at The Social Brand TN, or our website is thesocialbrandtn.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Victory, for your time and for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been fun.